Yeah. No, that to me, that's the harmonizing and the beauty that happens is when, and it's very much like relationships, right? When you're reciprocating love, let's say, with your spouse or something, right? At the greatest level, that's when you feel the most connected. That's when you feel the most intimate. That's when, there's this incredible amount of love and connection. When you're not doing that, it's like things are just going to hell in a handbasket. It's garbage. Like, it's everything is, but it's the same with sport. And I even see that in the undulation in the waves, right? And battle ropes and stuff. It's like when it's connected well and you're reciprocating well, man, it's beautiful. And when you're not, it's like, man, it's garbage. Then you die quick, and not die like literally die, but you just will not be able to continue.
No, 100%. I mean, I think it's, and actually, I think you really like with the battle ropes and all that you've done with those. How important is training rhythm in what we can say sport, but just in general? And it's one of those things that I just feel it's underrated because it's not understood.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And rhythm is part, coordination. And, people, I hear people all the time, they'll say like, oh, you're tone deaf. And like, no, that's not true, because you can understand, if you can understand language, then you're not tone deaf, right? I mean, you may not be able to hold a note like a professional singer or whatever, but you're not tone deaf. And same with body movement, right? If you don't have rhythm and, you're, white man can't dance or whatever, well, then you wouldn't be able to walk. You can walk. You can get from point A to point B, right? So you got it. You just don't have it at a high level. And so, 100%. I love your idea, your concept, or the language that you use, reciprocating that kinetic energy. Can you parse that out a little bit? Because I think I intrinsically understand, because of, doing sport and being in the books enough to understand even what that is. But I would love for you to, maybe open that up a little bit. What do you mean by that?
So essentially with the kettlebell, you're almost always countering the weight. And it's a lot like, because of its design, because the weight is extended even away from you with the handle, there's a pendulum effect to this. And if you think about, what do they call those, you have it on the desk, and it's like the kinetic balls that like one hits and it goes through and the other hits and then back.
I don't even know what they're called.
I don't know what it's called.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I should really look that up so that I can explain this better. But if any of that gets disrupted, the power isn't put out. So even if you try and speed it up, it doesn't deliver the same amount of power that it does when it just is in that timing of hitting. And that's it's funny. Like, a lot of people understand Olympic weightlifting because of CrossFit.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it's a beautiful analogy for me, because I feel like kettlebells are kind of at the point of where Olympic weightlifting was when it was first introduced to CrossFit. You'd see horrible technique, and you would see a not understanding of what was going on.
Yeah.
And then people that were Olympic weightlifters came in. Klokov came. I mean, a number of guys, like a number of like really high level Olympic weightlifters, and they're like, listen, you need to be here, here, and here with the bar, and the timing is here, and you're going to hit it. And like when it hits the hip, you're exploding up and it's going under, all these things. And there's a rhythm and marrying to the bar. Well, with the kettlebell, it's similar. So I always compare like Olympic weightlifting is like stomping on the gas.
Yeah.
Like you hit it and there's a rhythm to the pull for sure, where it's not just like trying to throw it over your head, but it's a much more direct line. With a kettlebell, like specifically like in the jerk, it's like being on a diving board. You have to let that exhale sink into the hip. And then you have to there basically is like a wave movement, right? With the spine, where as you're the load's in the hip, and as you go up, you're extending through that thoracic spine, and even bringing the heart and chest up so that you're naturally bring the arms higher and sink under. And then you're in a more classic position of an under squat, of which almost everybody understands.
Yeah.
And you're going to, again, wait for the bells to sink into you and hopefully roll back out following that kinetic energy back up and overhead as the weight distribution.
Right.
So it's, as I don't know if I'm doing a great job of explaining this now, but so much is the diving board, I feel like, is a good explanation. Is that you have to wait, like if you try and punch the board or like come off it before it hits its full extension, that like you've lost the kinetic energy of it.
Oh, 100%. Like a double jump on a trampoline too, right?
Yes.
You can steal somebody's jump, or you can launch them twice as high, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Love that.
And I feel like that is the piece that is really missing in a lot of understanding a kettlebell.
Yeah.
I feel like it a lot of times it's we've used these powerlifting concepts, which are great. Like they're great concepts, and especially when you're new to fitness, of learning how to hinge from the hip, learning how to brace is it has its place and is really, really good. And all of those, principles are great and applicable principles, but you're not fully using this tool to its best capabilities.
Yeah.
And as because most of sport is really learning how to stack your bones.
Yeah.
And no one tells you before you're going to go run a race, now I want you to get as tight as you can. Like it never happens. Like that doesn't. You get in a fight. No one tells you that before a fight.
Yeah.
No one tells you that before any event.
Yeah.
And the kettlebell really flows that way better when you don't, and you learn how to stack your bones and use leverage points.
Yeah. Yeah. And use the power of that momentum and the pendulum and then, like you said, countering it with your body, like a pendulum, but even just the pendulum of the actual swing too. And
right.
And when I'm guessing, and you would have more experience in this than I would, because I wasn't a big weightlifter. I dabbled, and because I dabbled, I sucked at it. Right. You can't dabble in something like that. There's way too much going on to dabble. So, but I would guess that, when you hit like that perfect snatch, right, or perfect jerk or whatever, it feels effortless and amazing. But I know that in kettlebell sport, when you're able to go way longer, way faster, it's because you're able to do that multiple times over, and it just feels right. Bang, you just nail it, and then you nail it, and then you nail it. And then when you start not nailing it, it's either from fatigue or from just not being able to line them up again in good sequencing and timing. And so then you start to fall apart, right? And that's the struggle bus time, which is something that you were talking about before this, is so how important training with a kettlebell could be for military or anybody that has to operate under duress, right?
Yeah. Well, so like we were talking before, it's a Russian military sport. Essentially.
Yeah.
And they use it for a reason, because if you watch kettlebell sport and you don't know what's going on, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Like, all right, dude, lifting 140 pounds. That's not, if you're a weightlifter, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But, I remember reading an article by Dan John, and he was like, it's by far probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, wow. Just, like this, that might not be that might not be the exact statement, but basically That was where he was getting at. And it's unbelievably difficult just to hold 140 pounds for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, like not switching hands in a snatch. That's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So essentially when I look at the sport and like why, like I still, like I'm scared not to train. Let me put it that way. Like I'm scared to not train because it's so humbling. Like it's the most humbling thing I've ever done. And you have to really, it's more of this like mental zen that it puts you in, of where you have to be calm, but you can't be sleepy. And I mean, like, you have to be very alert, but your focus has to narrow. And it's this art of being under, as you sit there and are holding that weight, you know, on your hips and into your body, and you're starting to, you know, the weight of the bells is starting to crush your forearms, and you're having to like, you have to focus in and let everything else go and accept everything for as it just exactly what it is and no more. Yeah. I remember watching Sergey Merkelin, like, you know, the first time seeing him on the platform, and I was just like, this guy's made of ice. Like, he has absolute ice in his veins because nothing changed. Nothing changed from his first lift to his last. Like, he didn't even change his expression. I remember just thinking, this guy has to be a psycho. And then I met him, and like, he couldn't be sweeter. Like, he couldn't be a man. And what I came to realize is that he wasn't going to waste the energy to show emotion. And that's the discipline and control that he had over his mind. Yeah. And his first rep and his last rep are identical. Yeah. Which is unbelievable.
Because that's over the course of 10 minutes, and his pace is not slow.
No, he's what, 73 kilos? He's 78 or 73 kilos.
Yeah.
Something like that.
73, yeah.
Yeah, and he does 77 reps in 10 minutes, like clockwork, and I still think he pull it off to this day.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and so it's crazy. Like, it's nuts to see that a guy that has literally harnessed his mind, like, to just to that singular task. Yeah. And it truly is. It's the thing that always draws me back to specifically sport. Yeah. Yeah. That it's like, we're going to really find out what now looked like. The truth of right now is, you know, and just that ability to, it teaches you to stay calm. Yeah. I mean, it does, it forces it, or you don't learn. Yeah. Or you don't learn.
And you quit, and then you don't learn. But right.
Yeah.
You set the bell down, and then you don't learn.